Shalom, Kahalo Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Makakwadash, double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us his truth. And shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect tabernacle of David. I'm the brother Yahshua. I'm back with the World War III Daily Update. Shalom and salutations to you as well. We're going to start today right here in Jeremiah 51 and 11. We're going to read a couple of different versions to get some clarity. Make bright the arrows. What does that mean, make bright the arrows? It could mean lighten them on fire and before you shoot the arrow from a bow. It could mean the missiles, yeah. Gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, going back to Isaiah 13 and 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, who have no regard for silver and no desire for gold. What has happened? It has happened. It says, the Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai, hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device, the Most High's device, is against Babylon, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. Let's read that in the NLT. Let's read it in NIV first. Sharpen the arrows, take up the shield. The Lord has stirred up the kings, stirred up, right? The kings of the Medes, Vlad and them, all right? Medvedev, because his purpose is to destroy America, Babylon. The Lord will take vengeance for his temple. Sharpen the arrows, lift up the shields. For the Lord has inspired the kings of the Medes to march against Babylon and destroy her. All right, this is the vengeance against those who desecrated his temple. All right, so with that, let's take a look at the voice of reason here at Military and Foreign Affairs Network. 1 hour ago, Ukraine, battlefield Ukraine, Russian glide bombs. Now listen to what he's going to say. He's going to give you his assessment of what's going on and who is fighting who. All right, let's listen. Listen close.
Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And as we start today's program, I wanted to talk about a recent article in the Turkish press that is not being reported here in the United States. And I think this is very important to look at this and what is being said as this war continues to escalate, as we continue to gravitate towards what could be a third world war.
There it is.
And the headline is this: Russia says relations with U.S. on edge of open armed conflict.
Wait a minute. I thought that the war was between the Ukraine. See? Ukraine, Russian. I thought this was the war. Why? Okay. And I just showed you why. All right. Through the scriptures. This is what we do here. Okay. You can say, all you do is you just post somebody. No. No, here's what we do. Let's do it again. Here's what we do here. Nobody does this. The men of GMS, we do this. Jeremiah 51 and 11. Sharpen the arrows, lift up the shields, for the Lord hath inspired the kings of Russia to march against America and destroy her. This is the vengeance against those who desecrated his temple, the Edomites. Who is his temple? The children of Israel. Who desecrated that temple? Who's the third temple? Okay. The children of Israel. All right. We could go further into it. We could go right to Joel, which we might do at the end of this. Okay. For this is the what? Vengeance, the payback against those who desecrated his temple. We're going to come back to that. Okay? But first, let me let this guy say a few more words.
And the headline is this: Russia says relations with U.S. on edge of open armed conflict.
Why with the U.S.? Why is that? Because that's what God is doing. How about Shai is setting this up? He ain't tripping on Russia and Ukraine. He's setting up the Medes against the Babylonians, the Russians against the Americans. That's what we're watching here. See, no other channel does this. Bring out what's really going on according to God, whose name is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahweh Shai. Nobody does this. This is what we do here on the daily update. Okay? So you got to take this guy who does a fairly good job. Sometimes he goes completely off because he doesn't understand the scripture. This is a spiritual war. All right? It's a holy war, if you will. And they don't even know it. They're just being used. The Most High is using them.
Russian senior diplomats say U.S. may deny involvement in drone attack on Kremlin, but it does not convince anyone. Now look, it doesn't matter.
Salakia. It doesn't matter who did it. Listen to what he's about to say. Very important. Doesn't matter if Ukraine did it or who. What matters is what it means.
Who launched the attack on the Kremlin? Ukrainians, third party, or Russia itself as a false flag operation? It's the fact that it occurred, and what is the reason behind it? Well, it's escalation. Now, if we continue on with this article, the relations between Moscow and Washington are on the edge of open armed conflict, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Rybakov has said. We are working to keep relations with the U.S. from falling into the abyss of an open armed conflict. We are already on the verge, on the edge of the abyss. Russia and U.S. maintain contacts, and the problem is in lack of trust that Washington defies everything Moscow says as disinformation, he says. The diplomat added that the U.S. has long been a direct part of the Ukrainian conflict, waging an open hybrid war. Now that is a reasonable statement. That is factual. The United States is waging a hybrid war against the Russian Federation. Without a doubt. And why do we say that? Well, again, given the amount of equipment that has been delivered, if we were to go back to, say, the war, the Iraq Wars, the Gulf War I, for instance, the first one, not the second one, the first one. If we were to have seen Russian intervention on the scale that the United States is intervening in Ukraine, it very well may have led to war between the U.S. and Russia. Now look, at that time, obviously, in the early 90s, Russia was in no position, it was the collapse of the Soviet Union, was in no position to engage the United States. So it's difficult to look at that scenario and compare and contrast with what's happening now. But again, make no mistake, the United States is a direct participant in this conflict.
See where this thing is going? According to the scriptures. This completely validates the book called the Bible. God is in charge of this. And we know what the outcome of this thing is going to be. Okay? And why. All right? We'll stop it right there. Go back and watch the rest of this. All right? He didn't even talk about the Donbass all of this buildup right here for this supposed offensive, spring offensive, right? Because where's um, Bakhmut? Bakhmut way up here somewhere. All right, this is way down here. Okay, or am I wrong? All right, the point is this. Look, this is not important. Russia against Ukraine. That's not what's important. What is important is Russia against the United States. Okay, all of this is Russia going back to the Soviet Union. Them fighting over their own land. That's nothing. Russia's ready to get down to what? They're ready to get down to this. Okay. This is the vengeance. Whose vengeance? God. The Lord. Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. His vengeance against who? Against Russia and the United States, who desecrated his temple. What does that mean? Okay, and who is his temple? Let's find out what this means, and then we'll go ahead and close it. Let's go to Joel, and we'll get to the real battle, the battle of Armageddon. Okay, we'll go to NLT. Okay, here's his temple. Okay, it says judgment against enemy. Now, who's enemy? The enemies of God and his chosen people, Israel. Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, Speckled Bird. At the time of those events, said the Lord, when I restore the prosperity of Judah and Jerusalem, okay, the two sticks, I will gather the armies of the world into the Middle East, the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. Okay, there, where in the Middle East? Not in Eastern Europe, not Ukraine versus Russia. Okay, not even uh, America and Russia, but in the Middle East. This is where that battle is going to go down. I'm going to tell you why. There will I judge them for harming my people. There's the temple right there. Okay? My special possession for scattering my people among the nations and for dividing up my land. Okay? Here's the reason why. They threw dice to decide which of my people will be their slaves. Who are the slaves? Who were the slaves in ancient Egypt? The same slaves here in spiritual Egypt, known as Babylon the Great, also known as the United Snakes of America. Same slaves, Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians. They traded boys to obtain prostitutes and sold girls for enough wine to drink. This is God's temple. God's temple is his special possession, his people is the third temple. Get it? It says, what have you done against me, O Tyre and Zidon, and you cities of Philistia? These are all African nations. Are you trying to take revenge on me? Here's the vengeance right here. If you are, then watch out. I will strike you swiftly and pay you back, vengeance, for everything you have done. You have taken my silver and gold and all my precious treasures. Who's that? Right? And carried them off to your pagan temples. No, this is the temple, right? You have sold the people of Judah and Jerusalem to the Greeks, to the Edomites. You Africans gathered up my temple, the temple of God, the third temple, Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in West Africa. You sold them to who? Right? So that they could take them far from their homeland. But I will bring them back from all the places to which you sold them, and I will pay you back vengeance for everything you have done. You're going to flip it, right? I will sell your sons and daughters to the people of Judah, the real Jews, the Negroes, okay? And they will sell them to the people of Arabia, the Ishmaelites, a nation far away. I, the Lord, have spoken. Now, how's he going to do that? He can cause World War III. Get ready for war. Say to the nation far and wide, get ready for war. We're watching that right now. Why is he doing this? For harming my people, my special possession, the third temple, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. For scattering my people. Who was scattered among the nations? Who went into slavery? I just think, shut the fuck up. Okay, here it is right here. Here's the reason. Here's the reason we're watching this. We go back. Here we are. This is the vengeance against those who desecrated his temple. Right? The third temple. That's good enough. We'll end it right here. Here's what's going on. Make bright the arrows. Gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the people. Vlad is mad. Okay? Go back to the video. I made a video before this. It's called The 9 Lives of Putin. Right? Where they're attempting to assassinate this guy, going back years. Right? That's stirring him up. That is stirring up the Russians. All of these assassination attempts, they have no choice. The Lord has aroused the spirit of the kings of how did he do that? We'll keep trying to kill him. All right? So anyway, with that, we hope that the elect will edify you, brothers and few sisters. I'm going to do an update on Sunday, Lord willing. We hope that the elect will edify you, brothers and few sisters. With that, shalom.